Let me ask you about this. What was the deal with the speaking of Alabama and prison, what was the deal with this execution?
Oh, man. The first nitrogen gas execution in the history of the United States, or ever.
What?
Sounds pretty brutal to me. I wouldn't want to go that way, although so what did we got? We got, this man was actually, they tried to execute him once before. They tried to give him lethal injection. They couldn't get a vein, and so the death permit, or whatever they call it, ran out. So they didn't have time to execute him. So this guy was actually on the execution table 2 times. No psychological trauma at all, to just be sitting there waiting to be murdered by the government. So it was an experimental execution because they can't find the drugs to get lethal injection anymore. So they're trying new ways to kill people. And this was the nitrogen gas, where they put a mask over this guy's face, take out all the oxygen, fill it with just nitrogen, which they said was supposed to make him pass out in a few seconds and he would be dead within a minute or so, they said. It took him 23 minutes to die, or 23, something like that.
Jesus.
Apparently the people witnessing the execution said he was thrashing around. Involuntary movements is what they called it.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that a peaceful death.
No, sounds pretty horrifying to watch, to be done to. I mean...
So I'm against all form of capital punishment because there's no sense in sending somebody to the grave that you have no idea what you're actually sending them to. But I don't know, maybe catch me on an off day. Maybe I will have it so much, fed up with humanity. I might change my mind. But,
well, for me, the problem with execution especially is, I mean, sure, the execution part, that's pretty horrifying. But to be sitting there and knowing the thing is, humans that we don't know when we're going to die. Most of us. We don't have like a time clock. Like, all right, at 3:23 on May 17th, you're going to croak. But I cannot imagine the torture that would be going through knowing, all right, counting down the minutes here, counting down the days to when they're going to put a nitrogen mask on me and end me. Like, that sounds like torture, and like, that's the cruelest form of torture and punishment there could be.
Yes. I agree. I mean, you talk about
pricking your balls at the same time the whole time that you're in that jail cell.
Consciously, I mean, every breath becomes as sweet as pie. You're just like, oh my God, I know. But yeah, this is psychological torture.
Mm-hmm.
So he was convicted of capital murder in 1988 for a murder for hire plot involving the killing of a preacher's wife. Mm-hmm. He was sentenced to death.
Fire, I believe.
I guess, I don't know.
Well, so the story was, he was hired by a preacher. It was the preacher's wife who hired these 2 guys to come and kill his wife for insurance money. So there was 2 of them. One of them already was executed years ago. And the guy who was executed the other day claims he was the other guy killed it and he was just there watching. And a jury actually said that he should get life in prison, not the death penalty, and the Alabama judge overruled them and gave him the death penalty, which has actually become unconstitutional now. It's since 2017, I want to say.
I am really scared of the Alabama sort of governmental system, like Louisiana as well. It's like the prison systems down there are the most crowded and worse off. The police are the most corrupt. The judges are the most corrupt. The people are the most uneducated. The
food is being harvested by prison slaves.
There's like 3 times as much sugar and preservatives in the food there than there are on the West Coast. People are just in rough shape, and it's just like a free-for-all down there. And I've hitchhiked through there, and it's scary what happens. There's a correlation between people in Alabama and there's a correlation between the most religious states and the ones that take the most pharmaceutical drugs, like fentanyl, antidepressants, and Ritalin, or your whatever ADD medication people are taking nowadays. Yeah, Alabama sort of
got a real nice hold down there too.
Yeah, I mean,
you know who to take advantage of, right?
Yeah, God. But yeah, this dude was totally executed, nitrogen gas for his crime. And you were mentioning about why they can't find this drug anymore that kills people better, faster, more efficiently, more humanely, or whatever, ethical slaughter.
Yeah.
And the reason is the company that makes it is like French, and they just don't want to give it to them anymore because they say, we're not going to give you a bunch of toxic to kill these people. That's the last I heard.
Someone's taken a stand, I guess.
Well, somebody's got to.
It's nice. I mean, maybe it's just not profitable.
Could be. That could be the story. I'm surprised that they don't they'll bring back something even more grotesque, like the guillotine or the firing squad.
But I don't know. Not that there's any great way to be executed, but the guillotine seems like, all right, boom. Like a second of pain. This guy suffocating for 23 minutes doesn't sound very...
I remember they taught me that in school about how they used to kill people in the Middle Ages, and they would come with a dull axe and explain. I'm like in third grade. They're like, and they would just keep going, and it would take all day. And sometimes you'd have to leave and then come back the next day to have the job finished. Jesus Christ.
Well, the guy who invented the guillotine, I think he has this quote where he's saying, well, I'm just trying to give them, even in death, the best that I can offer, or something. Let's see if I can find
the highest quality.
Oh,
us here at Guillotine and Associates, we believe in enriching the experience of execution by making it an enjoyable and quick experience that the beheadee will enjoy.
Fun for the whole family.
Fun for the whole family. If you're going to plan your last moments, do it with a guillotine. That's the guillotine promise. I'm not just
Those guys over there at Electric Chair Industries don't know a thing.
I'm not just the CEO. I'm also a client.
That's where we need the sound effects.
Yeah, we're going to bring the next week, folks. We're going to have the sound effects to punch up all the sadness in the world. We're going to have like boing.
The guillotine comes down. Boing. If you're going to execute me, at least make the guillotine make funny noises.
That's all I ask. Well, you won't have much of a choice on anything at that point.
No.
Several countries have been criticized for the use of the death penalty, especially developed countries here. So Amnesty International says countries such as China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the United States have all been identified as having high numbers of executions using methods that are deemed...
Iran just executed 4 Kurdish guys the other day.
What was the crime?
Oh, being alive. I don't know. What was their crime?
I think you're right. I think it was probably just being Kurdish.
Yeah. Oh, you're Kurdish?
Nope.
They were... They had entered Iran from Iraq's northern Kurdish region. Now, I don't know if I believe this at all.
You still using Google? You should use Perplexity. It's way easier.
I've got other ways.
The Kurdistan is a special place because it's 2 non-consecutive sort of autonomous zones where the Kurd people live, and they're really hated by other people in Iraq and Turkey and
Syria.
But the thing is, they're the most developed, most reasonable, civilized people in the region. Not to say that, other people are more primitive, whatever, but they really do have good infrastructure and good education. And I got drunk with a Kurd on a German train, and he was awesome. We went to Hamburg, and struck up a friendship, and we didn't understand a word each other said. He made me drink some kind of strange yogurt drink and eat some kebab and stuff. It was quite enjoyable. So shout out to my Kurdish friend out there.
And to all my Kurdish friends as well, who I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah. So that's the story there. So why did those guys get, did you find out why they got?
Supposedly sabotage, alleged links to being Israeli spies. It's all bullshit. I'm just going to say it now.
That's about all it takes. I mean, there's a fine line between a terrorist and a freedom fighter, or a, activist and a dissident. There's a fine line.
And so we've got Iran hanging people on the rig. We've got China. I don't know if I think they still have their mobile execution vans that they drive out to the villages.
It's like a masseuse. I brought the table.
Rub your feet, just a little lethal injection,
Yeah. Firing squads and lethal injections. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I've defended China in the past in various occasions, and I always say, well, the United States has more people in prison than any other country, but the truth is, China executes a lot of people every year,
and a lot of people that are in prison that's not reported,
and a lot of them are drug related. So if anybody smokes a joint in China, that they just come and inject you with poisonous chemicals and kill you, like you're some kind of defective piece of shit.
Well, I remember trying to get weed in China.
Are you serious? Now this is a story. Terrifying. Charlie gets weed in China. What was that like?
Well, I mean, it's because they could straight up kill you for it. So you can't get flour. They only have big brown balls of hash that people have probably been able to smuggle in their butts or something.
Jesus Christ, Charlie! Do you know how stupid you have to be to smoke hash in China?
Right.
So you risk your life to get stoned off a drug that makes you more paranoid. That sounds horrible. Cannabis is illegal in China. The country strictly prohibits marijuana under the PRC criminal law, while industrial cannabis, hemp, is legalized in the Yunnan province. It's strictly regulated.
Oh, in Yunnan, really?
Yeah. The possession...
They've made waves then.
Yeah, the possession of marijuana is subject to severe penalties. You may face detainment, fines, and a varying degrees of prosecution with strict enforcement. But I would think that if you're dealing, that's more of that's an execution. Okay.
Same with Singapore. Singapore has some really strict drug laws.
Well, and what else? The Philippines under Duterte.
Oh, yeah, he went on his big rampage too.
This was, again, going around and executing, joint smokers.
Yeah, and not actually dealing with the big, guys that are making money off of it, controlling the gangs and the violence and the drugs.
Oh, it's really interesting you brought that up. Singapore has some of the strictest drug laws in the world. Get this. The Misuse of Drugs Act classifies substances into three categories, A, B, and C, and imposes severe penalties, including long prison terms, caning, and capital punishment.
Caning's got to be... They got to bring back caning.
Dude, everybody go Google a picture of modern Singapore and tell me that doesn't look like an advanced nation. And then I'll tell you. I think
they'll cane you if you spit on the ground or chew gum, right?
Is that true too?
I think that's true.
That was like an old wives' tale about Europe.
I don't know how strictly enforced it is, but I think you can be caned for chewing gum in Singapore.
I think chewing gum should be a canable offense.
Just cane him.
Oh, you know what's funny is that it's not illegal in Singapore, but it has strict regulations on its sale and import.
It's like alcohol.
Well, they thought in 1992 they passed a thing that said the improper disposal of it is like going to be a big deal.
Stick it on the bus seat or something.
Lock cylinders, subway doors, elevator buttons.
So that's a cane. That's a cane worthy offense.
That's a bad one.
Like, I wonder what the cane looks like. Is it just like some old guys, one of those old wooden like ones that
No,
just comes out?
I think
Or
it's one of these it's like a reed, like a real thin piece
got
of wood.
ridges on it and crap.
Probably. It probably looks like a cutting board, It's just like
Jesus.
no, I mean it can't be good, right? Law